Kano Emirate was formerly known as the Sultanate of Kano. The system would experience a series of changes following the Usman Dan Fodio-led Fulani Jihad of 1804 to 1808. Dan Fodio conquered many cities and kingdoms, of which the Kano Emirate was one. Kano was the most regarded of all the emirates at the time, as it was the most economically advanced of the conquered Hausa kingdom. The emirate has a head called the Emir. The Emir is appointed by the governor and together with the Emirate Council takes up the reign of leadership of the emirate. The Emir has a cabinet which consisted of the Waziri, Prime Minister, the Galadima, the one in charge of the capital, the Madawaki, the commander of the army, the Dogari, the police head, the Marji, the one in charge of the treasury, and the three Sakins, the Sakin father in charge of welfare, the Sakin power, head of butchers, and the Sakin ruler, head of the fishermen. The Kano Emirate is home to many Hausa Muslims all over the world, numbering about 100 million. It is the custodian of the culture and religion of the people of Kano. It is also home to the largest procession of colorful horses in the world.
Governor Abba Yusuf on Friday reinstated Emir Mohammed Sanusi II as the 16th Emir of Kano State. Sanusi received his letter of restoration to office at the government house in Kano. The governor said the decision was based on his competence, credibility, and popularity. He urged the new emir to be guided by the principles of Islamic teachings and to use his position to unite the emirate and foster harmony. Sanusi was the 14th emir before he was dethroned in 2020 after a fallout with former state governor and current national chairman of the All Progressives Congress APC, Abdullahi Ganduje. The conflict at the time saw the Kano House of Assembly pass a law splitting the Kano Emirate Council into 5. This move diminished the powers and influence of the Emir of Kano. Sanusi was subsequently replaced by the 15th Emir, Aminu Ado Bayero. Now the State House of Assembly has deposed Bayero and dissolved all the 5 Emirate councils, namely Bichi, Karaye, Gaya, Rano, and Kano. It passed the Kano State Emirate Council Repeal Bill 2024, which replaced the Kano State Emirates Council Law 2019. The bill gave the deposed emirs 48 hours to vacate their official residences. And in a new twist, a federal high court in Kano granted an order stopping the Kano state government from reinstating Sanusi. Justice Mohammed Liman granted the order in an application filed by Alhaji Aminu Baba Dan Agundi. To help us understand the high-stakes battle for supremacy and the collision of ambitions,
let us go back in history to...
In April 1963, Emir Muhammadu Sanusi of Kano flouted the first law of power and was deposed by the Sardona of Sokoto and Premier of the Northern Region, Sir Ahmadu Bello. The Emir had outshined the master. Sanusi was served his deposition letter by the governor of the Northern Region, Sir Kashim Ibrahim, and was banished to Azare, the capital of the Katagum Emirate in present-day Bauchi State. Emir Muhammadu Sanusi would spend the next 21 years of his life in exile.
Let us now take a look on how the power play started.
Ahmadu Bello was born on June 12, 1910 in Raba, Sokoto State. His father was a district head and heir to the Sokoto Emirate. Having schooled at the feet of Muslim scholars, studying the Quran, the Hadith and the Sharia law, he proceeded to the Sokoto Middle School for his formal education. Afterwards, he enrolled in the Katsina Teachers Training College, where he was for 5 years. His zeal for politics saw him accept a scholarship in 1948 to study local government administration in England. After his return to the country, he was elected a member of the House of Assembly, representing the Sokoto province. He helped establish the Jamiya Mutanen Arewa, which eventually became the Northern People's Congress in 1951. Bello would go on to become the head of the party and also the Minister of Local Government, Works and Community Development. In 1954, Ahmadu Bello became the first premier of northern Nigeria. He envisaged a life of bliss and dominance for the people of the north, hence his decision to remain as premier of the region even after independence. Even as a politician, Bello never sought leadership all over Nigeria. He was content in his role as premier of the northern region. Sir Ahmadu Bello strongly believed that his position as the premier of the northern region was the most powerful position, even more powerful than the prime minister or any traditional ruler in northern Nigeria. This belief would serve as one of the reasons for his dethronement of Muhammadu Sanusi I, the 11th Emir of Kano in April 1963. Muhammadu Sanusi I was born in Kano to the large family of Abdullahi Bayero, who was the Emir of Kano at the time. He attended the Kano Middle School and would be bestowed the title of the Siroma of Kano. Sanusi ascended the throne of the Kano Emirate in 1954 after succeeding Abdullahi Bayero, who passed away on December 23, 1953. Before his appointment, he was a senior counselor of the Emirate Council. He controlled the administration of the Emirate as the sole native authority for over 10 years. As Emir, Sanusi was pivotal to the major shift in the elite configuration in the Emirate. He was also instrumental in the formation of the Northern People's Congress (NPC), the dominant party in northern Nigeria at the time. Sanusi was highly influential and helped garner many groups into the NPC. He was a charismatic and politically sound leader. In fact, he was one of those responsible for the success of the NPC in the 1951 elections. As Siroma of Kano, Sanusi was known to have his way. His emirate was the most single local administrative unit in the country. As a result of the endowments of his emirate, he was not only powerful, but he was also wealthy. Sanusi was a highly respected leader, not only within the confines of his emirate, but also without. He was treated as a first among equals amongst the emirs of northern Nigeria, only coming fourth after the Sultan of Sokoto, the Shehu of Borno, and the Emir of Gwandu. During his 9-year reign as Emir of Kano, Muhammadu Sanusi I was powerful. He ruled his emirate with a firm hand and sought the development of his people. He was so influential that he even hosted Queen Elizabeth II of England when she visited Kano in 1956.
Now you can see that two strong men are suddenly arisen in northern Nigeria. Then the power tussle began.
In 1961, when Sir Gawain Westray Bell, the governor of the northern region, proceeded on leave, Emir Sanusi of Kano acted as governor in his stead. However, as the premier of the northern region, Sir Ahmadu Bello believed that his position was that of a grand emir and was superior to all other traditional rulers in the north, including the Sultan of Sokoto. As a result, from 1962 onwards, Bello embarked on tours to non-Muslim areas of the north and asserted himself much more aggressively in the region. This, coupled with a string of other events, led to the power play between these two leaders, the premier of the northern region and the emir of Kano. Emir Sanusi, who once served as the acting governor of northern Nigeria at the time when Sir Gawain Bell went on leave, thought it fit that he should be the substantive governor of the region after the tenure of the British colonial master expired in 1962. However, Ahmadu Bello chose his close friend, Sir Kashim Ibrahim, and appointed him governor of the northern region with a formal announcement made in London on June 1st, 1962 by Buckingham Palace. This appointment made the emir feel slighted by the Sardana. An event which would however be pleasing to the emir was a particular incident that the Sardana did not find funny and even considered an affront. This was during a formal occasion at the racecourse. The emir stole the spotlight by arriving in full splendor and pageantry after the Sardana had been seated, and the whole assemblage had to stand up for the emir in traditional homage and honor. The Sardana would have none of it. Other events contributed to the conflict between these two leaders. In 1959, at the celebration of the Northern Region's internal self-government, the emir had thought himself worthy to sit in the royal box alongside the Sardana, the Sultan and the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester, Prince Henry and Princess Alice, who were on a tour of eastern Nigeria, the southern Cameroons and Lagos. Unfortunately, the emir was told to sit somewhere else. Another event was the emir's opposition to the provincial bill passed by the Sardana's government, which resulted in the appointment of some House of Assembly members as provincial commissioners, who not only enjoyed the rank of ministers in the regional government, but were also given official precedence over the emirs. This would be too much for the emir to bear, as the provincial commissioner for Kano was a Sokoto man, a certain Alhaji Aliyu, Magajin Gari of Sokoto, who happened to be of Sokoto royal slave origin. To rub salt into the wound, the premier passed a land tenure law which transferred certain highly lucrative powers of land allocation from the emirates to the regional government. This law affected the purse of the emir greatly, as the Kano Emirate was the hardest hit, being the most economically important to the regional government. Furthermore, the emir of Kano was the Muqaddam, leader or high priest of the Tijaniya Tariqa, a highly successful Islamic brotherhood with devoted followers in many parts of northern Nigeria and an external inspiration in Senegal. The Sardana, having believed that he was the champion of Islam in the north, thought the leadership of a much more popular Islamic Tariqa by the emir was a challenge to his authority. To further worsen the case, one of the sons of Emir Sanusi divorced his wife, who was the daughter of the Emir of Gwandu, the Sardana's distant cousin. All these strings of events would culminate in the eventual dethronement and banishment of the Emir. The seething antagonism between the two leaders soon deteriorated to a point of no return. The Sardana of Sokoto and the Premier of the Northern Region, Sir Ahmadu Bello, launched an investigation into the financial affairs of the Kano Emirate. The Emir was accused of misappropriation of funds and embezzlement. However, the crime of an Emir was commonplace in those days and could have been easily swept under the carpet, but the Premier thought to finish off the Emir to humble him. The Administrative Board of Inquiry, at the instance of Ahmadu Bello, recommended the dethronement of the Emir. In April 1963, Isa Kaita, who was the Minister of Education at the time, was dispatched to Lagos by the Premier to meet with Prime Minister Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa and to inform him of the decision to depose the Emir from the throne. The Prime Minister and some of the Northern Cabinet members with him advised against such action, stating that Kano would be on fire. However, Kaita told Tafawa Balewa that the mind of the Sardana was made up and that he didn't come to Lagos to seek the Prime Minister's opinion, but just to inform him. Also, Sir Kashim Ibrahim entreated the Premier against carrying out such action, as it could blow up with severe consequences for the North, for Emir Sanusi of Kano was a man of influence and wealth. The Sardana would not budge, and he instructed Governor Ibrahim to carry out his constitutional duties, as the matter was beyond him and out of his hands. At once, the governor invited Emir Sanusi to the government house in Kaduna, delivered the news to him, and brought out a prepared resignation letter for him to sign, which the emir signed without a word. Afterwards, Emir Muhammad Sanusi I of Kano was dethroned and banished to Azare in present-day Bauchi State for nearly 21 years before returning to Wudil, about 6 kilometers from Kano, where he later died in 1984. As predicted, the Sardana's action led to a series of backlash from the Kano people. They refused to accept the actions of the Sokoto man who did the unthinkable by ousting the Emir of Kano from the throne. Hence, in April 1963, the people formed a political party, the Kano People's Party KPP, with Malam Bello Abdul Kadiri serving as the president, while Malam Ali Wazirichi emerged as the Secretary General. In addition, the youth wing of the Northern People's Congress broke away from the party and formed a new political party, the Northern Youth Movement. That same year, the KPP formed a coalition with other political bodies, establishing a larger political body, the Northern Progressive Front, NPF. However, the Sardauna had anticipated their moves and put certain measures in place to ensure they failed. In June 1963, members of the Kano People's Party were hounded out of jobs. The entire members of the Executive Party were also tried and sentenced to prison for using abusive and annoying language on the Premier, Sir Ahmadu Bello. In a final stamp of authority, Muhammadu Inuwa, the dethroned Emir's uncle, was appointed in April 1963 and installed as the new Emir, but he ruled for only 6 months until his death on October 8, 1963. On October 12, 1963, Alhaji Ado Bayero succeeded the late Inuwa as the 13th Emir of Kano. He would go on to rule for 50 years until his death on June 6, 2014. He was 83. Since the ouster of Emir Aliyu Baba in 1903 by the British, Muhammadu Sanusi I would become the first emir to be ousted from office and exiled in 1963 after 9 years on the throne. Interestingly, his grandson Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, who became the 14th emir of Kano in 2014, would suffer the same fate as his grandfather 57 years ago, when he was also dethroned by the Kano state government on March 9, 2020.
Now that history has repeated itself, let us hear the crime of the new Sanusi.
The deposed Emir of Kano did not understand the responsibilities of a traditional ruler, especially for a strong institution with that of Kano. You see, the Emir of Kano was a social critic, a celebrated social critic. And there was nothing wrong with that because he's an educated person. There's freedom of speech. Let me give you one example. When I was a deputy governor, and my former governor, Konkoso, was the governor of Kano State, Sanusi was an executive director in a bank. And he made a statement that instead of providing water in Kano State, we are building a house in Abuja. That is the house belonging to Kano State government, like any other, the lodge, the governance lodge in Asakoro. And also he said, while we were paving the roads with tiles in order those who are walking along the street can also walk smoothly, he said, instead of us renovating schools, we are putting, such pavements. So you can see that it was a social critic. Of course, in governance, you have to do so many things at the same time. You do not say you will do this, you will stop all other things. That was a social critic. I could remember my governor said either the bank should sack him or we should withdraw our account from that bank. And the government, the bank did not sack him. So we withdrew 969 million naira from that bank. I could remember the figures precisely. You see, that was the work of a social critic. But when we became the Emir of Kano, he refused to change from that stature to the stature of a traditional ruler. He's an economist, but he failed to understand. In economics, you have to inherit assets and liability. But as economy, he only inherited the assets of the traditional institution by giving orders, staying in a mansion, dressing gorgeously, being addressed as a king. But the liability of that institution, you have to watch your words. You have to watch your tongue. And he didn't do that. That was a problem. That was the biggest problem, that he could not change his mode of life from social critic to an institution. As of now, that institution does not afford a social critic of his type. He will have problem with the society. He was destroying the institution. This tongue that you are seeing is a very dangerous organ in the body. In fact, even politicians, the greatest enemy of a politician is his tongue. Because you said something yesterday, and today you are contradicting yourself. That is your tongue. That is why God, in his mercy, decided to provide so many layers for the tongue. You have the lips, you have the teeth in order to protect your tongue, and it is also left in a liquid so that it doesn't come brittle. All these are arrangements in order to have a break for the tongue. But Sunusi was able to break all the walls. Even the traditional rulers, they added another layer by covering it like this. Covering like this means don't talk anyhow. If you don't know, that is the meaning of this. Don't talk anyhow.
And that's why you had a problem with him.
Yes, that's when we had a problem with him. He was destroying the institution. That was one thing. The second thing was that, you see, there's claim and counterclaim about the creation of emirates, additional emirates in Kano. Abubakar Rimi attempted to create emirates, and he created emirates. But unfortunately, Abubakar Rimi did not provide the legal backing to the emirates. And therefore, another governor came and changed it. So, because of public demand from those areas, that is one, demand from those areas. Two, because of history. Three, because of deepening and widening the role of traditional institution in governance. That is very, very important. These three basic reasons, we decided to create more emirates. And we didn't create them just off head like that. We followed history. We followed the demand of the people. We created the emirates. He challenged it in the court of law. When he said the law was wrong, we look at the law. Yes, we said it's okay. We corrected the law. He went back to the court, challenging it. Now, how can the leader of a traditional institution coexist with a government in litigation all the time? As I told you, three reasons. Not weakening his powers. His powers are not more important than the development of the people. His powers are not more important than the aspirations of the people. His powers are not more important than the historical antecedents of these people. That is the situation. So it was not the creation of the emirates in order to punish him. It was not like that. But he had no power to challenge. Was he not created out of law? Was he not a legal instrument that made him the Emir of Kano? then why is he challenging legal instruments to create other emirs state? So these are the problem that he was heading to destroy the system on one side, and also he was trying to create a parallel government. He was trying to challenge the government on legitimate issues, which is not acceptable to me. And I don't think any reasonable governor, it will be acceptable to him. That is why we took that action. It was painful, but we had to do it in order to save the system. But look,
However, notwithstanding the explanation given by the governor, the legality of his action was seriously questioned.
Former Emir of Kano, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, is not a member of the armed forces where insubordination is regarded as a crime. As a traditional ruler, a first-class traditional ruler, if he had committed any offense known to law, it would have been brought to his attention, and then he would have been expected to defend himself. What happened here was a charade, a situation whereby within a space, I think about 5 minutes, the governor presided over a meeting where he accused the emir of insubordination and disrespect to constituted authority, that is himself, the governor. So the governor became the accuser, the prosecutor, the witness, and the judge at the same time. And without pretending to give the emir a right of fair hearing, he announced his removal. That is totally alien to our law, our jurisprudence, our constitution. And it's very specific. It's specifically clear, made clear in the constitution, that nobody shall be punished for an offense that is not defined by law. So the Kano state government has not pointed to any section of the law that the emir, Sanusi, was alleged to have committed, violated. Again, as I said, even if he had breached the law, even if he had committed an offense, the law will require that he be given the opportunity to react. And that is what the provision of the Constitution, Section 36, fair hearing is all about. We're operating in an atmosphere of official impunity. And as far as the law is concerned, the governor has been removed without due process. As if that was not sufficient, his right to liberty, his right to locomotion, freedom of movement, have been violated. He's now been banished. And contrary to his own wishes, he's been restricted to Loko in Nasarawa State. And again, our law is very clear on this point. As far back as during the colonial regime, when Eshubayi Eleko was deposed and banished by the colonial regime, the case was fought up to the Privy Council, and I remember that Lord Atkins made the point that even under a colonial regime, a subject had his human rights, should have his human rights respected. And on that ground, a writ of habeas corpus was allowed. Of course, the colonial secretary, Cameron, had to ensure that the Oba of Lagos was restored to his throne. That was under the colonial regime. The recent case of the emir of Gwandu, Alaji Jokolo, in fact, incidentally, was also restricted. After he had been deposed, his movement was restricted to Nasarawa State. But the Court of Appeal made the point abundantly clear that no governor has the power to violate the human rights of Nigerians except in accordance with the Constitution. Again, this is what is going on. One would have expected the Attorney General of Kano State, who was likely to have attended that meeting, to draw the attention of the governor and members of the executive to this development under our law. Well, there is no doubt that the emir, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, has always been a very controversial figure. Under the deformed military junta, he was detained for months, I think particularly under the Sani Abacha junta, as a governor of the central bank. He was no doubt controversial, which perhaps led to the allegation he made concerning disappearance of $20 billion. Yes, he has been very vocal, and he's been a radical emir. But I think Sanusi Lamido Sanusi wasn't quite prepared for the kind of battle he took on. If you are going to fight the establishment, the ruling class, you have to get more organized, and I think that has been missing. While he was trying to defend the people in northern Nigeria and the oppressed people in our country, he also was operating like many of us, members of the elite, without forging an organic alliance with the people they oppressed. And so, for that reason, he clearly ran into problems.
And so, with that said and done with, the younger Sanusi once again accepted his fate just like his grandfather and moved on. However, unlike his grandfather, history once again wants to be kind to him. And so there was a power tussle between the immediate two past governors, Governor Kwankwaso and Governor Lai Ganduje, of the NNPP and APC respectively. A little hope was born when Kwankwaso's NNPP defeated Lai Ganduje's APC in the just immediate past election and gave birth to a new sheriff in town in the person of the present governor of Kano, Governor Yusuf. Kwankwaso having defeated Abdullahi Ganduje once again, then it was time to pay back. That meant undoing everything that the immediate past governor did to his enemies. And so the drama continues. The younger Sanusi rewrite history, unlike his grandfather, returned back to the emirate.
The restoration of Muhammad Sanusi II as the Emir of Kano. This development comes following his assent to the bill abrogating the 5 Kano emirates. Governor Yusuf also issued a 48-hour notice to deposed emirs to vacate the royal palaces.
It's a new dawn in the affairs of the Kano Emirate Council as the State House of Assembly repealed the Kano Emirate Council Law 2019, dissolving the Bichi, Gaya, Karai and Rano Emirates. All offices created under the repealed law have now been dissolved, and district heads appointed or elevated under the previous legislation are to revert to their former positions. 13 members of the All Progressives Congress APC at the House of Assembly staged a walkout expressing their displeasure over the passage.
People should be given the chance to speak and see whether they like it or not. And most of us are from the rural areas, and we felt what happened earlier, has brought development to our rural areas. So essentially, when we thought there were going to be level playing ground.
Hours after the passage, the Speaker of the House of Assembly, Yusuf Palgori, submits the bill to Governor Abba Yusuf at the antechamber of the Government House for assent. Governor Yusuf signed the bill into law and announced the reinstatement of Muhammad Sanusi II as the Emir of Kano.
Guided by the provisions of the Kano State Chiefs and Emirs Appointment and Deposition Law 1984 and the Kano State Emirate Council Reform Law 2024 with full support of the kingmakers, I have approved the reappointment of Malan Sanusi Lamido.